Okay, your first project, the first time you get to sit up here, stand up here, lay up here, and show me what you know. You're going to find out in this class, I'm going to have you guys talk a lot more up here than sitting over there and listening to me yap. And the reason why is because this demonstrates that you have the capability of showing me and your peers what you know. First project is the President's Project. You're going to notice in the email that I sent you, I gave you or attached the email or the presentation rubric, and it has all the information I'm about to go through on this screen. It also has a little bit more information that you really need to know. You're going to notice that your name is on a list, and on that list to the right there are presidents that you can choose from. Very few times you're going to find students that didn't get a choice, because we just didn't have the numbers in the room to give everybody a choice. I'm sorry, then you just have to do the president that's on the list. I'm sorry. If you are given a choice, you choose one of those presidents to the right of your name. So if you had a choice between Bill Clinton and George W. Bush, or actually I think it's George W. Bush and Obama, you would choose to do your presentation on either George W. Bush or Barack Obama. You don't do both, just one. When you give a presentation in this class, you're going to find I do something a little bit different. And I'll explain this more in class with you. But you are not allowed to come up here and read off of a pre-made slide, note cards. You're not allowed to read with anything other than pictures. Yes, you don't get to use any words whatsoever on your PowerPoints or note cards. But you're going to use pictures instead to help you remember the material. There is a physiological, psychological reason why I'm doing this. It's actually beneficial. I'll explain it all in class. There's no need to go here. Let's talk about what you're doing for this presentation. So based on what president you pick, you will do a few different things. You are going to talk about their party affiliation. Affiliation means what party do they belong to. In other words, are they Democratic, Republic, Whig? What party do they belong to? And most of them are either going to be the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, but there are a couple exceptions. A couple people might actually have a president that is part of the Whig Party or the Democratic Republic Party, which was back in the day. So that's the first thing. You get points for coming up here and saying their party affiliation. The next is to talk about an important law that they passed. What was the law called? What did it do? How was it significant? Next is significant cultural event. So for Obama, you could put 9/11, significant cultural event. For Lyndon B. Johnson, the Civil Rights Act, significant cultural event. Or actually, that could be a law, too. The next thing is the number of terms. I'm not going in any particular order, but number of terms. This is, presidents can only serve right now 2 terms. That wasn't always true, though. FDR served 4. He's actually the only president out there that served more than 2 terms. They made an amendment to the Constitution that made it so you only serve 2. But you have to come up here and say how many terms they served. Did they serve 1 term or 2 terms or whatever? Do not get this confused with years. That would be a big no-no. It's not years, terms. Terms is like the block. Inside the block is the number of years. And for a president, it's 4 years. So how many terms? The next thing you're going to do is describe something about the president you agreed that they did and something about the president you disagreed that they did. But when you do this, when you talk about what you agree and what you disagree, don't just be like, well, I just don't like it because, you know, it was President Blueface. And I don't like that guy. I don't care about your opinions about their personal traits. I care about what they did in office that has impact to the country. And I want you to describe to us why it was a good thing, in other words, why you agree with it, what benefit did it give others, or why was it a bad thing, and why it was not a good thing, and why it was not a benefit to others, or why it wasn't a benefit to the presidency itself. So make sure it's not like a personal attack. It's this person made this decision, passed this law, did this X thing, and this is why I think it is good or bad. Make sure you give me the good or bad. PowerPoints, PDFs, Google Slides, whatever you're going to use this for, make sure that you do not put words on it or you will lose points. Let me give you kind of an example presentation. You can't really see the pictures so well from what this, but it's the same thing on the PowerPoint, so you can utilize that while you're looking at it. But this is going to be my presentation, mock presentation of Thomas Jefferson. Nobody gets to use Thomas Jefferson because I'm doing it. It would just be a recreation of me. So you're going to find that there are no words on any of these slides. The words do not appear. However, these pictures will represent the words for me. So this is Thomas Jefferson. He was President of the United States. Matter of fact, he was the third President of the United States. So then I'm going to move on to the next slide. He was part of the Democratic Republic Party. This was not a Democrat or Republican as we think of today. It was kind of a mixture between the two. And you could also see him as an anti-federalist to a certain extent, at least with his political beliefs. So that's what this picture right here is showing me. It's showing me that this is what I need to talk about. It's not giving me words. It's just giving me something to remember by. Some cultural, historical event that took place around his time is when he was being elected, there was a debate on who's going to win. And there is the man, Aaron Burr, who could have possibly been president. But Hamilton, who actually did not like Jefferson, actually stood up for Jefferson and said, Aaron Burr is like terrible, like one of the worst people to be put into the presidency ever. So we shouldn't let him do that. Well, Burr was a little upset. And he challenged Hamilton to a duel, because that's what they did back then. And during the duel, Hamilton, like a gentleman, fired his pistol up in the air. And Burr, he shot Hamilton and killed him. So, yeah. Bye, Hamilton. Don't worry, Burr basically killed his political career after this action. The next thing would be a law that was passed. And he did some trade laws preventing ships from coming over without tariffs or other taxes placed on them from foreign countries. The Embargo Act being one. This was a law that would be one of his not shining moments as president. People did not like this because it actually hurt the economy to a certain degree. Another event that happened in his tenure was the travels done by Lewis and Clark. This is the thing that allows us to see what was west of the Mississippi. Sacagawea was part of this trip. What's interesting about these two is one of them actually becomes very depressed after this event and ends up killing himself. And the other person actually uses his brand name to actually make a lot of money. And during the trip, it was just happenstance that one time they were captured by Native Americans, and Sacagawea actually knew the particular Native Americans that were capturing them. And if she wasn't on the voyage, yeah, they would be dead. Another interesting thing, too, Lewis and Clark brought a couple bear cubs back from this trip, and actually they lived on the White House lawn for a little bit. So there you go. I could go on and on about this expedition because I think this expedition actually was more difficult than actually putting someone on the moon. And if you want to challenge me, let's do this! All right, next. We have, some just more fun facts. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson were like frenemies. They were friends, enemies, back to friends again. If you ever get the chance, watch the John Adams HBO special. It's a seven-part miniseries. It's great. And these two bitter back and forth, but they both died on an anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. They died within moments of each other dying. They weren't next to each other. They were separated by hundreds of miles. But they corresponded with each other all the way to their death. And look at this. How many terms did he serve? 2. That's it. See, 2. See, technically not a word. It's a number. See, folks, I'm okay with you using numbers, not words. This is the presentation. This is what it will look like. Now, one thing that I disagree with him on and one thing I do agree with him on. He was the person that wrote the Declaration of Independence, or one of 5 people. A lot of people don't know the other 4 people. Some people know Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, but he was one of 5. He wrote most of it by himself, and the other people edited it. And he put down, everyone has the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Yet he owned slaves. I don't think that's a good thing. He also had interesting relationships with some of his slaves. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree with slavery. I'm sorry. I will always be against slavery. And some people will say, well, he was just a product of the time, and I would argue no, because John Adams was in that same time era, and he didn't agree with slavery. So was Benjamin Franklin, and he didn't agree with slavery. So even though he was a person that lived in a time that slavery existed, I don't think giving him the pass because other people had slaves is necessarily something that you could do. The thing I do agree with is the Louisiana Purchase. This thing right here shows the Louisiana Purchase. It over doubled our size with very minimal costs. And we probably wouldn't be the powerhouse today or our history would be completely molded differently without this purchase. So go Thomas Jefferson. Knock it out, man. All right, that's it for the project. And there's one other thing that we have to do for this video, and I'll talk to you later. The one assignment you have to get done by today, by Monday here, and get it turned into me via email is just responding to one question, and that is, what would you do? I gave you a scenario based on countries of conflict. What would you do in this scenario? You send me the answer via email. That should work for today. You can get started on the president's presentation, which I suggest you do. You're going to be up here. You're going to be talking. You're going to go through all that stuff. However, this is the thing you need to do first. Okay, so here's the presentation. Here's the scenario. You can't see the board so much. You just gotta follow my logic. You have your country, which I'm gonna call your country Jamba Juice. Jamba Juice is your country, and your country is attacking another country called Chipotle. Chipotle is by far the best restaurant out there. I don't care what you say. And Chipotle and you have been fighting for a while, and you kind of have the upper hand. But there's a problem, you see. There's another country called Applebee's. And Applebee's, well, they have been doing some stuff to you that's not so great. You see, they say they're neutral. Neutral means they're not helping anybody out in this war. They're staying out of it. They're like Switzerland. I don't want anything to do with this. But here's the stuff they've done to you that makes you a little frustrated. One, they're sending ships and tanks to Chipotle. They are sending weapons of war to your enemy. Also, they have cut off iron to you. Why do you need iron in war? To build the weapons of war. They've also put ships right here, right between you and this land called A&W. And this land is filled with oil, tons of oil. And they blocked you from it. Why do you need oil? You're at war. Oil makes things run in war. So they have also stopped other countries like Denny's from selling you oil. So they're really kind of making sure you don't have enough war supply to win this war. They've also put ships and submarines right here next to you. Now they're saying they're neutral, but they just parked a bunch of ships and a bunch of submarines right next to you. And they're like, don't worry, these are peace ships and hugs and handshake submarines. They've given money to two other countries, one being Chipotle, and the other being Burger King, who's Chipotle's friend. And Burger King is supplying them with a bunch of stuff, so that money's just kind of going to them for the war effort. And finally, they place an embargo on you. We'll talk about this term later, but basically, it's stopping trade from going to your country. You have the situation. You have Chipotle, who you're at war with. You have Applebee's, who just seems to be doing everything they can to irritate you. You know, it's like when we used to have to sit next to each other in class, and you had the person next to you that constantly tapped their pencil, the whole time, just tap the pencil, and you're like, "Bleh," and you have the person that doesn't cover their face when they cough, which, by the way, big no-no now. Don't do it, mister or missy. They're just being super irritating to your country, to Jamba Juice. So what if I told you that there was an opening to get Applebee's back? There was a way to show Applebee's who's the boss. Well, I'm glad that I can tell you this, because Applebee's has a military base that's pretty close to your shores, that's relatively undefended, and if you strike them now with an aerial attack using aircrafts, you could probably sink a good portion of their naval forces and suffer very few casualties. Here's my question I pose to you. Do you let their actions slide? Do you try to go on the war effort without iron and oil and all the other materials you need to face your enemy? Or do you attack Applebee's and tell them being neutral means staying out of the fight? Your choice. You're going to tell me what you would do. You're going to email it to me. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Peace out.